We got work to do.
Welcome to Highway to Hell, a supernatural podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Kristen.
And today we're talking about Season 6, Episode 10, Caged Heat. And I'm now realizing that I meant to look up the meaning of the name of the episode and did not. I don't know if you know.
I don't know. I think I saw something on the Supernatural Wiki. Oh, okay, I found it. So the title of the episode is a reference to the 1974 movie Caged Heat, which is a classic women in prison exploitation genre.
Okay.
So,
see, I think I saw the title of the episode and was like, oh, like a movie that I've heard of, and then I didn't care. So I don't know.
I think if I would have seen this title, I think I would have expected us to be talking about Lucifer's cage or something. I don't know, because of the word caged, but
yeah, for sure.
It's not really. I mean, yeah, we sort of get some of all of that, but not really. It's more focused on well, I mean, we can talk about what is it focused on, because this episode is insane.
It's pretty bonkers.
I have been looking forward to talking about it. And wow.
Well, good. I'm so glad you've been looking forward to talking about it. There's a lot happening, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone who doesn't remember what happens in this episode, I pulled this description from Supernatural Wiki. It says, when Sam and Dean are captured by Meg, who is looking for Crowley's location, Sam proposes they work together. The Winchesters will locate Crowley in exchange for Meg torturing information out of him on how to get Sam's soul back before killing Crowley. Which is definitely what happens, and there's some other crazy shit along the way.
Yeah. I mean, even that description is really hard to digest.
Yeah. We got Meg working together with Meg.
Yeah.
We hate her.
Yeah, she has not been our favorite along the years. We've seen Meg since season 1, and here she is back again. It was funny because we've seen her since season 5. We saw her once, I think, in this season.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it wasn't really mentioned before this episode that it's her fault. It is her fault that Joe and Elle died.
Right.
So that was kind of like just a mental aligning of like, okay, like, yeah, we really hate Meg. Like, she really fucking sucks.
Yeah. By the way, we have a very valid reason now to keep hating her.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big deal. This episode was directed by Robert Singer and written by Brett Matthews, who, let me see, I kept it up, also was the writer for Live Free or Twy Hard, episode 5 of the season, and then another episode coming up, season 6, episode 16, and Then There Were None. So those are the only 3 episodes he works on in Supernatural, so we'll see him again and for the last time on episode 16.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. The episode aired December 3rd, 2010. We did not have any music, no notable songs. And I think that's all that I had for information about it before we began. I think you had some good info from the season companion book, but maybe to talk about later.
Yeah, once we get to the monsters, the ghouls
Yeah.
of this episode.
Okay. Well, then let's just jump right in. We do get an episode recap. We have flashbacks of Meg, and this is the new Meg, the brunette Meg, who, so sorry, but I think as an actress, we probably do prefer, or at least the actress for this role.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we like this Meg. I like this Meg.
yeah.
We've talked about her before, and about how she has this like distinct way of speaking, and you were able to replicate it perfectly. Um, but Rachel Miner, otherwise, she's really spunky, and like
Yes,
again, I think
totally.
we've already covered this ground, but I think the writing maybe has something to do with it. The writing that they gave Nikki Acox from season one, it was more of a sly Meg and that sort of thing. But Rachel Miner, I think, does a really good job of taking like Meg's snark comments and giving them a little bit of personality.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, they're a little more actually edgy, I think, as opposed to just cheesy.
Yeah,
She does a good
exactly.
job for sure. Um,
Hmm.
we also get flashbacks of whenever there was talk of the alphas, um, and the whole situation that we're in now with Sam and Dean working for Crowley and bringing him creatures in exchange for Crowley giving back Sam his soul. So that's the general gist of our flashbacks in this recap.
Right.
Then we get to now, and the scene we open up on is Crowley torturing someone, and the camera pans down, and it's Crowley. We're like, wait a second. So I have to assume that this is the alpha shapeshifter,
Right.
and
But it took me a second to be like, okay, well, which one is the alpha and which one's Crowley?
totally, yeah. Who's who here? And so as they start talking, we realize that the real Crowley is torturing the alpha shapeshifter who looks like him, and Crowley's trying to torture the location of purgatory out of him. Crowley pulls out this knife. It's very shiny. He notes that it's made of iridium, which is apparently very expensive and very painful for shapeshifters. This is um, one of their things that's kind of like
Weaknesses.
kryptonite. Yeah.
Hmm.
And so Crowley tortures the shapeshifter with this knife, but he's not getting anything out of him. The shapeshifter spits blood in his face and really pisses him off. And so Crowley pulls out this baby monitor, and we hear all of these babies crying over the baby monitor. And he says, I have a little shapeshifter baby nursery. And he's gotten all the babies, and he threatens to kill them all if the alpha doesn't give him the location of purgatory. And the alpha looks at him and he says, kill them all. We'll just make more. And
So messed up.
yeah, he's not talking. And suddenly Crowley loses his temper, grabs a sword, and turns around and chops off the alpha's head and kills him. And that's that.
Yeah, that's a little I don't know, Crowley, come on. Like you could have had a little bit more patience if you're really trying to get some information.
And couldn't you
Um
get other useful things maybe from the alpha? Like you have the alpha. You're just going to kill him?
yeah,
Yeah, I had the same
crazy.
thought. I know. He's so reckless.
He really is. But it must be because he has some other things up his sleeve because we know he can be smart.
True. Yeah, he's always got something going on. So we cut to Sam and Dean, and they pull up in the Impala at this sort of like rural, weird site at night and next to a forest. And they meet these two demons and hand over a Rougarou that they've caught. And they try to find out from the demons where Crowley is, but the demon who's talking to them doesn't give a shit. He's very snarky, and they have this kind of funny back and forth.
Mhm.
But essentially, the demon's like, go fuck yourself. I'm not telling you where Crowley is.
Well, but also I really love this one of the demon's lines because he tells Dean like I see your lips moving or something like that, but I can't understand what you're saying because I don't speak little bitch.
That's really good. And I like
Yeah.
the effect because, like, right when he says that, his eyes turn black. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh
Yeah.
shit.
It's too funny. It
Yeah,
just felt like something Dean would say also. So it was like, oh, Dean's getting a little taste of his own medicine right here.
for sure. Yeah. Sorry, I don't speak little bitch. So yeah, demons tell him to fuck off, and they get back into the car. Dean's obviously really pissed, and they go back to their hideout. I don't remember where this is supposed to be. Have they just sort of like staked out this abandoned house or something?
Yeah, I don't know either. This episode I was going to mention, it really starts like in media res, you know. It's like because one, we haven't seen Sam and Dean actually do any jobs for Crowley yet. So,
Mhm.
you know, because the last time they were talking about it, they were really wrestling with the fact that they need to work with Crowley or work for him and that sort of
Right.
thing. And so I don't know. That's its own thing. But yeah, I we haven't really established like where they are and
Okay,
all of
just
that.
making sure I didn't miss something. Because I feel like this house is familiar. They were there in a previous episode, but like I don't don't know
Mm.
where this is.
Yeah, you could be right, but also I feel like they do reuse sets, so it could definitely be like the same house that, for example, Sam and Ruby got it on in and that sort of
Right.
thing.
Yeah, maybe it just feels familiar because
Yeah.
we had something else happen there. Yeah, so at this nondescript hideout, um, they go back and Dean's really done. He's really done dealing with Crowley and um, doing his dirty work. And there was kind of, I'm sure you picked up on that weird line when Dean was all pissed about it. He said, now I just feel like I have to go and take a rape shower or something.
Yes, it
Yeah.
wasn't the best line.
I just, I mean, maybe we've learned by now, but basically never use that word,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it
Like
wasn't
unless
it
you're
wasn't
actually
good.
talking about the real thing and it's in context and we're like talking about this constructively, it's not there's like no need for it ever.
I agree.
So anyway, skipping over that, Dean asks Sam if he even wants his soul back. But Sam just says, well, look, I'm working for Crowley. And Dean says something back to him, but then there's no response. And Dean looks up and Sam is gone from the room. And he calls for him, but he doesn't answer back. And so Dean gets suspicious and he pulls his gun out and goes looking around the house and he suddenly sees Sam out cold, flat on his back in the middle of one of the other rooms. And he walks in and gets attacked by something and he gets knocked out. So then the scene changes and it shows both Sam and Dean waking up, tied up in chairs in this same room. And suddenly Meg shows up.
Meg.
Dean's like, God damn it. Um, and she questions them and is trying to find out where Crowley is. They obviously have no idea. We've just seen at the beginning of the episode that they were trying to find out where Crowley is with no luck. And so she can tell that they're not lying and she gets pissed and like really pissed. And Sam realizes, I guess because of his soulless instincts and how good he is now, that she's totally desperate. He
Mhm.
realizes that she is on the run and that what is going on in hell with the demons means that it's either her or Crowley. One of them has to die. Um, and she can't kill Sam and Dean because she needs them. They're her only tie, the only hope she has of trying to find Crowley right now. And so Dean's like, okay, well, bye. And, obviously expecting to just be done with this. And suddenly Sam offers to work with her. And he's like, what? What are we doing? And so Sam offers to take her to Crowley, but only if she helps them get some information from him before he dies. And she's like what? And he's like, it doesn't matter. We can get this done. And I thought this was really interesting because he was like, you can get it from him, right? And she was like, well, I studied under Alistair just like Dean. So, Dean, what do you think? Can I get what I want from him? And he's like, yeah. Um,
Wow.
I know.
Mm, because it's funny because like Meg and Dean, right? Like their relationship is is really interesting in this scene because she's like all over Dean, and I think talking about like the sexualization of Meg in this episode is one thing, but like
Totally.
she really is all over Dean. And in the past we've seen Meg kind of be all over Sam and kind of like tease him, and
Mhm.
especially since they're the ones that met first and all of that. So it just makes you wonder, like, did they chill out in hell, or like not chill out, but I mean, did they actually meet in hell when Dean was
Yeah.
there? And
Right. Was there anything happening there with them?
yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. Um, and so they all kind of grudgingly agree to this plan. And Meg decides not to let them go. They're just going to leave them tied up. And on their way out, this one demon who's with her, there's like a group of them just all kind of standing around like bodyguards. One of them stops in front of Dean and stares down at him and is just like glaring at him. And Dean's like, "You gonna kiss me?"
Oh my god. And Meg says a line that I don't know why, but it's the one line that I always think of her saying. Because she says hugs and puppies all around, like once they make their deal with each other. And it's just, I think I've seen that gif quite often, of her saying that. It's just a very Meg number two line.
So next scene, we have Sam and Dean talking to each other, and Dean really doesn't want to work with Meg. He says that he knows that she'll just screw them over, and Sam's like, "Well, of course, I know she's going to screw us over, and that's why we're bringing insurance." So then we cut to Sam walking outside at night, and he starts calling for Cass. Just, talking into the air, asking Cass to come down, and nothing happens. And then Sam starts making up the story about how they found this golden box, and it turns out these Nazis had wanted it a while back, and it could be the Ark of the Covenant. And so Cass actually shows up, and he's like, "Where's the Ark?" And Sam's like, "Wow, you actually fell for that? That was the plot from Raiders." So then Cass gets pissed because he's in the middle of a war. Come on, Sam. And then Sam gets real pissed and he's like, "Do you think I care about that? We're not here to talk this out. I need your help or I will hunt you down and kill you."
Yeah. What?
What? Sam is threatening to hunt and kill an angel.
Right. And Cass is like, what? Like, how?
Yeah. Kiss me, little boy. Um, and so Cass is like totally thrown off and he's like, "You need help, Sam." And Sam's like, "I need your help." And so that I think that kind of convinces Cass, that it's a big enough deal, at least, for Sam to go that far and ask for his help like that. And so they go back into the house where Dean's in there, and he's like, "Wow, Cass actually showed up." And Sam's like, "Yeah, it's no big. This is what friends do for each other."
Hmm.
We're like, "Uh-huh. Yeah."
Sure.
Uh-huh. So Cass starts helping them try to find Crowley, and he says that Crowley is hidden from him. So they end up sneaking into Samuel's office in the compound. We don't see them trying to get in there or anything. They're just suddenly creeping around Samuel's dark office. Um, and they're trying to find some clue for where to find Crowley. But Samuel finds them there, flips on the lights, and asks what's going on. And he refuses to tell them where Crowley is. And Dean starts arguing with him about why. Why won't he help them? This is for your grandson's soul. We're trying to get Sam's soul back. And they ask Cass if he can give them a minute. And so Cass does his disappearing act. And Dean asks Samuel about this because he's like, I get a lot of this, but I need to know why you can't help us. I just got to know why.
Mhm.
And Sam tells them that Crowley told him that he would bring Mary back to life.
Yeah.
So,
Which makes a lot of sense. I
sure.
mean,
Yeah, that's a
as to
good
Samuel's
pairing.
motives. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but Dean sees all the issues with that, and um, he starts arguing with Samuel about it, and Samuel's like, the difference between you and me is that you know how to live without her. She's my daughter. And Dean tells him not to trust Crowley. He's got to stop trying because he's not trustworthy. Um, they've always done the same things. They have made deals with creatures many times, and it's always bitten them in the ass. And he wants Samuel to learn from their mistakes. He's like, clearly this runs in the family, which is interesting. And Dean tries to tell Samuel that they'll figure something else out, but um, that he doesn't really go for that. And Dean's like, what are you going to tell Mary, that you wouldn't help her sons? And for some reason, that's too much for Samuel, and he tells them to get out. And that's the end of that conversation.
Yeah. It is strange to me though, because, and I don't know, I guess I'd like to know what you think about this, because they go from, yeah, okay, they don't feel good about working for Crowley at all. Um, but they're doing it for a specific reason, in order to get Sam's soul back. But then Meg just comes along and is like, "Yeah, fuck Crowley. Let's you and I work together, and I'll try to get this information out of you." And it's just like why though? Um, like
Yeah,
why do they feel that that's going to be better for them in the end?
yeah. Yeah, I definitely questioned that, but the whole new plan with Meg seemed to be it was totally Sam. It was all Sam. Dean was sitting there going, "What the hell are you doing? We can't work with her. We can't do this." And Sam's like, "Shut up. We're doing it."
Yeah.
And so I sort of felt like it was I don't know, something Sam was doing just because he has these other instincts now. Like maybe it had something to do with him being a better hunter. Like he just saw an opportunity that he thought was a lot better for some reason and went for it. And so I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. But um I was just sort of like
That's true.
trusting that because it didn't seem like a great option.
Yeah, I could see him trying to play all the fields, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I guess I only bring that up now just because like Dean is kind of trying to shame Samuel in a way by saying like, "Oh, you're gonna tell her you made a deal with the demons," but it's like, well, you guys just made a deal with two demons,
Yeah, that's what you did.
separately. Um, so it's a little, I don't know, it's a little messy for Dean's
Yeah,
argument.
it's super messy. I think the only sticking point for me against Samuel is that in the process of what he's doing, he is really screwing Sam and Dean, who are his family.
Hmm.
And what Sam and Dean are doing isn't affecting Samuel or anybody else who they care about.
Yeah, that's true.
So I had a problem with what Samuel was doing because he was choosing certain members of his family over others. And I didn't really understand the reason why. And the reason he gave at the end of the episode, like we'll talk about that, but that wasn't good enough for me. It was like, "Oh, you're kind of an asshole,"
Yeah, yeah, he totally is.
which is a shame.
Hmm.
But I think also kind of explains a lot of why I felt like he was an asshole already, but I couldn't tell why.
But it's also interesting because I think his motive makes him a little bit more sympathetic. You know, when we found out that he was working with Crowley and or for Crowley, and before this, he was an asshole, but he seemed really shady. Um, and it was just kind of like, oh well, you're working on the side of evil, so you must be evil also. But it's like,
Mhm.
oh no, there's a little bit of heart in that after all. And even however shady he looks, as we've remarked, he's doing it for like the best of intentions, kind of, not really, because he's screwing Dean and
Yeah,
Sam,
I guess
but
I felt like it was just selfish intentions,
yeah, oh yeah, totally,
you
it
know?
it, it
Like,
really
I guess I just
is.
felt like it was super selfish. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, I agree with that. At least there's a better reason for it than we thought. So then we go back to Sam and Dean's hideout house thing, and they have Cass with them. And Cass is watching TV while Sam and Dean are kind of doing some research, it seems like, and trying to figure out what they're going to do. And Cass is watching porn. Um, he says, if the pizza man is in love with the babysitter, why does he keep slapping her rear?
Oh
Maybe
my
she did something
god.
wrong.
I would love to hear Cass just describing porn. Just
Narrate the whole porn? Yeah.
yes.
Porno. I would love that too. Maybe we could get like a I don't know, like an audiobook, but Cass just describing a porno.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Like
Oh my
Mystery
god.
Science Theater 3000. Uh and so also I guess he's supposed to have a boner? He like looks
Okay.
down.
Yeah, because Dean is like, uh, tells
And
Sam
now he
like,
has
"Oh,
a
well, now he has a boner." And it's like, "Well, what does that mean that I don't know. Does that mean that Cass like now has feelings like a human does, or like
yeah, like
sexual
sexual urges.
attraction?"
Yeah.
It's so strange. How
It
does
is.
that work?
I don't know.
Well, I guess we did see an instance of that in that one episode, the end, where we've traveled into this alternate future universe, and Cass is like banging all of these hippie chicks. So I guess it is possible. Oh, and like angels bang people all the time, right? Like in the Bible, that happens.
That's true. No, yeah, I think that's a thing.
Okay, well, you know, you can't. inseminate someone with an angel child without a boner, you know? Well, I
Angels
guess you
gotta have
can,
boners.
but um
So
but
funny.
yeah.
So yeah, they have this whole porno experience. And then there's a knock on the door, and Dean opens it up, and it's Samuel. And he comes inside, and he sees Cass watching porn, and he's like, "Is this what you guys do? You sit around watching pornos with angels?" Um, and right before that, Dean was like, "Cass, we're not supposed to watch porn around other guys, and you definitely don't talk about it." And so then when Samuel comes in and asks that, Cass is like, "I'm not supposed to talk about it." Which is so funny. So, then Samuel tells Dean, who, because he's like, "Why are you here?" And he says, "It's what Mary would want." And so he pulls out a map where he has pinpointed where the place is that he drops off all of the creatures for Crowley. Um, and he, is basically just dropping this off. He says, "I wish you guys wouldn't do this," and starts to leave. And Dean asks him to come with them. And Samuel pauses and he's like, "I'm not suicidal, you know, bye."
Mm. Mhm.
So then Sam and Dean meet up with Meg and her posse. Sam, Dean, and Cass all meet up with Meg. And Sam demands that she give him the demon blade. And at first she's like, "No, I'm not stupid." And then she ends up giving it to him. And Sam kills the demon who was looking at Dean all ugly. And they're all shocked. And Sam's like, "Look, I just did us all a favor. He was more interested in killing us than in finishing the job. So basically, he would have blown our cover and screwed this whole thing up." And I thought that was kind of weird. Uh, Maybe that was just supposed to be another instance of like Sam's super hunter skills, like weeding somebody out or something. But they were all cool with it, which I thought was weird.
Right, exactly. I don't know, it was very strange to me. It was really ballsy, like, first off,
Oh, yeah.
for him to do that. Um, but yeah, it didn't I don't know, I kind of felt like it was setting us up for something else, like for Sam to kind of go back on the deal with Meg or something of that sort. Um, but otherwise, no, it was just like him using his like new spidey senses to weed this guy out because he was a weak link,
Right.
which I guess does make sense with how Sam has been working, but it just happened out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was very sudden. And
Yeah.
yeah, for some reason, Meg's okay with it. And so she kind of, calls off the other two guys. And let me see. So, yeah, that's basically it for that scene. They just kind of accept it and move on. Then everybody's kind of getting ready to go, and Dean and Cass are in a room alone together. And Cass tells Dean that he doesn't think retrieving Sam's soul is wise. And Dean's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "I want him to survive." And we're like, "What?" So Cass explains that Sam's soul has been locked in the cage with Lucifer and Michael for a year, and he's done nothing but take his frustration out on it.
Mm.
And so he says the soul is, quote, mutilated, and putting it back inside Sam could be catastrophic. And Dean's like, "Well, he could be okay, how do you know?" And he's like, "I sincerely doubt it."
Yeah, so fascinating. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, first off, because the way they talk about the soul, it seems as if it's,
Like, still a
I don't
person.
know. Yeah, like, what's the word that they like humanize it or that they make it into?
Mm,
There's a word for that. But just that they don't treat it like an inanimate object, essentially.
right.
And that is so fascinating,
Yeah,
you know?
totally. Um, and I hadn't really thought about that. They've just talked about his soul being in the cage, and it's like, okay, well, this thing is just kind of floating around down there. So yeah, this is some pretty shocking news. Um, And Dean's kind of in denial about it, I think. He just is kind of like, "No, we're still doing it. We're going through with it. There's a chance that he could be okay." And also, Cass, you just figure it out. We're going to get his soul back. We're going to put it inside him, and if he's not okay, then you have to fix him. And Cass is like, "I don't know that I can fix him." And he's like, "Too bad. Fix him."
Mm-hmm.
Um and Dean's like, "We'll just figure it out." And Cass says, "Or we fail." And Sam suffers horrifically.
Yeah.
Then they leave the room and the camera pans over and Sam is standing there and he heard what they said.
No matter what, I think Dean is not going to want to listen. He probably thinks a suffering Sam is better than, this.
Because he hates this. He hates what
Yeah.
Sam is right now.
Yeah. But I am curious to hear, like what are your thoughts about, like, what are you envisioning with Sam suffering horrifically
Mm,
if his soul is shoved back inside of him?
mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think if there was a way that they could know that that's what would happen, like that Sam would suffer, I don't think it's worth it. This Sam is not the Sam we already know and love. But he's alive. He's walking and
Mhm.
talking. He's hunting. It seems like he's happy enough. Um,
Yeah.
I think the alternative sounded like he would be a vegetable, you know, and that's no life.
Yeah, they're really, well, Dean is really not taking into consideration all of the ramifications of what they're going to be doing. It's not just this, right? It's not just the fact that his soul may be mutilated and it could impact Sam negatively, but it's also like if and I think Crowley might talk about it later on in this episode, but I could be misremembering. If they open up that cage,
Mhm.
like just a smidge, like how do they know that Lucifer or Michael are not going to get out also, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, uh-huh.
Um so that's a really difficult move on their part, and one that um a big risk that they're taking.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
They're
yeah, there's a lot of
risks there.
things going against this. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kinda sucks that Sam overheard that, but at the same time, I mean, hypothetically, if it were about me, I would wanna know what we're getting into.
Mhm.
So, that's tough. The gang gets all together, and they get to Crowley's compound where all the creatures are, and they break in way too easily, and they know it. They can tell that it feels like a trap, but they keep going anyway. And inside, there are a bunch of cells, like jail cells. And inside each one is a different creature. We see a vampire. We see a man that's just dead. He's just lying on the ground with a bloody face and chest. And then they pass by the woman who was the Jinn from the beginning of the season and who Samuel captured.
Yeah.
And she's really freaked out. She wants them to help her, but they just leave her there. And then suddenly they hear Crowley's hellhounds and they're like, oh shit. And so they start running, and the hellhounds pick off the two red shirts at the back of the pack, the two guys who don't care and, nobody cares about, who just don't mean anything. And sorry, red shirt is a Star Trek thing. So they kill those guys, and Cass, Sam, Dean, and Meg get through these double doors and are able to close them behind them and lock them up so that the hellhounds can't get to them. And it buys them some time to figure out what to do. And so Meg is like, okay, well, it's been fun, y'all. I'm going to go. And she tries to escape from her body, and she opens her mouth to let her like demon spirit out, and nothing happens. It can't come out. And Cass is like, it's got to be a spell from Crowley that keeps you inside your body while you're in the building. So that's real sneaky.
Yeah.
And so then Sam tries to give her the demon blade so she can hold off the hellhounds, but she wants him to keep going and use it on Crowley and kill him. But she still offers to stay since she's the only one who can see the hellhounds. So she is going to try and hold them off. And so she pulls this move. She grabs Cass and starts kissing him while she rummages around in his overcoat to get the angel blade. It's very smooth.
Yes. Well, and then like, okay,
Mhm.
maybe we should just stop there and just talk about that for a second because let that sink in.
Wait, yeah, like, I
Because
don't does she have a thing for Cass, or is she just, like does she just have, like, the general horn? You know?
I don't know. I don't know. And this is what I've been wanting to talk about for like ages because I knew this episode was coming up and I don't know what to think of this. And I'm very curious to know your thoughts because we've already kind of talked about Megan Cass in it was sometime in season 5 when they're like really close to each other. I think they're both actually I think Cass has her like trapped in a devil's trap and she's being all smarmy and he's like he's telling her something and she's kind of like flirting with him and it just made it seem as if they had some sort of history
Mhm.
or something. And then there's this scene, but at the same time, like Meg, as mentioned before, has been just super horny this entire episode.
Yeah.
Like riding on Dean's lap and saying, saying things like, oh, kinky, and like
Yeah.
things like that. So it could just be her personality and her character.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, what was that line when she saw Cass for the first time and he was, like, being mean to her, just kinda being rude, and she was like she says, something like, "Oh, like, keep going, it makes my meat suit all gooey."
yes. Yes,
Oh!
exactly. Which,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is so yeah, so clear what's going on there.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, I don't know. I don't have no idea if it's like if it's a thing she has for Cass or that they have for each other. Um so okay, so because the next part of this is like Cass and like
Yeah,
they
yes,
separate for a second.
totally. And then he goes for it.
Yeah, he does. He like pushes her up against the wall and goes for it.
It's hot.
It's pretty hot. And you know, it seems okay, so like before when I watched the episode, I saw it as a serious moment of like, oh, like Cass and Meg are into each other. But then watching it again a little bit more closely, he like says that he learned it from the pizza man from
Yes.
the porn.
Exactly.
And in fact, in the official companion, they do say when they're speaking about this scene, they'd say, you would think that coming up with these odd comedic moments in the middle of high tension wouldn't work, that you'd break the tension, but we seem to pull it off successfully. And they're talking about the Meg and Cass kissing scene.
Mhm.
So it is written to be comedic. And that's that, but it's just so strange.
Yeah, I agree. and it does make it seem like there's something between them, but then I don't know. Then Cass makes it seem like he was just trying it out. I don't know.
Yeah, like, oh, okay, this is what humans do, and I feel something in my pants, and this is what
Yeah.
it's telling me to
What's this
do.
tingly feeling? Right.
Ugh,
And as far as Meg goes, I don't know. I'm kind of just as confused as you. I guess it could just be her character cuz like thinking back on early Meg, like she was happy to be all over Sam even though there was a
yeah,
motive there. Um and then yeah, she's been all over Dean and all over Cass. I think it's just kind of like whatever, whoever. I like them all.
yeah, yeah. That's just kind of her character, and so it's just a lot in one episode. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on. And
Yeah.
this kissing in particular was like, whoa. It gave me that reaction.
Yeah. And when she kisses Cass, it's kind of, it's like a deep kiss, but it's still like a little more innocent, I guess. But then when it's Cass's turn, like he's got his hand like on her chest, like kind of like pushing her into the wall. It's
Yeah,
it's a whole thing.
it really is. I'm sure there's some Cass and Meg
Oh, yeah.
fanfic, and I'm sure I'll be reading it tonight just to
There are two things I'm sure of. Yeah,
Oh man.
so funny. So I don't know. I mean, I would ship. I'd ship it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
down.
would too. I'd like to see that story.
Yeah. Because it's pretty obvious when Cass is done that Meg liked it. Uh, he kind of backs away, and she's like, "Oh, what was that?"
Well, but it also is kind of weird because she says something like, "I feel so clean."
Yeah,
What
she
does
did
that
say that.
mean?
I
What?
don't know. Is it because
Is that her
mental?
version of dirty?
Maybe
Like she's always feeling dirty, so this
like
she
making out with
actually
an
feels.
angel makes her feel clean. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. uh,
So yeah, we have that happen, and then Meg has the angel blade, and um, Cass and Sam and Dean take off as Meg waits and stays behind to wait for the hounds to break through the doors. Um, so sorry. So the guys run down the hallway, and as they get further away, the hounds break through the door. But it's another really awesome effect because there was salt along the bottom of the door. And as the hounds are breaking through, their breath is moving that away and breaking through it. And suddenly, as it separates completely, they're able to break through the doors.
yeah, very cool.
I love the Hellhounds.
I know.
Cool.
They're such an awesome um creature.
Mhm.
And I did like that we are learning a little bit more because I guess we didn't realize that they can be killed with the demon blade before. Is that right?
The angel blade that she's got,
Oh, the angel blade. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're
right?
right.
Yeah, for sure.
We
And
already knew about the demon blade.
it seems like they didn't even know because I think they said something like, "Is that going to work?" And she was like, "We're going to find out." So they attack her, and mid attack, the scene cuts, and we go back over to the guys. So the guys are walking down some dark stairs, and suddenly Cass disappears in a bright white light. And they look over and see Samuel standing next to a wall with the banishing symbol on it.
What the fuck,
What
Samuel?
the
You
fuck?
dick.
And Dean's like, "You sold us out." And they get grabbed by demons, and Crowley comes out of nowhere too. And I thought this was a really funny line because, Dean says, "You sold us out." And Crowley says, Best purchase I've made since Dick Cheney.
Too good.
Uh-huh. Oh, everybody hated him. Okay. So then Crowley tells Sam and Dean that sorry, but he has to kill them. And the demons take Sam and Dean away to separate, disgusting cells. Um, and then we cut back over really quickly to Meg as she's killing the last hellhound. And she looks a complete mess. She is completely kind of torn up and she kind of staggers away. And as she's walking down the hallway, she passes by an open doorway and then gets punched. And she falls to the ground and gets knocked out. And we look up and see that it's fucking demon Christian Campbell.
Yeah. So we still have to see his bitch ass.
Ugh. So over it.
It was really interesting though to see Meg fight so much for them, you know? Like I know there's
Yeah.
still obviously she has her motives and all of that, but it was just still very interesting to see her put so much effort into really helping them.
Yeah, she could have died. And was kind of willing to make that sacrifice so that they could carry on, and I thought that was interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
She's a complicated character. Sam and Dean are in their nasty ass cells, and Samuel comes and visits Dean at his cell. He opens up like a little bitty window in the door, and Dean just kind of lays into him. He tells him that he's not putting blood first, and Samuel says, "Mary's my blood, my daughter." He tells Dean, "You sold out your own mother. It was her or Sam, and you chose Sam," which is kind of a bunch of horseshit. No, Dean says, "You chose a demon over your own grandsons." And then Samuel says, "I don't even know what Sam is, and you want me to protect him? And you're a stranger. Tell me, what exactly are you supposed to be to me?"
Yeah.
I thought that was really fucking cold. I mean, I
I
get it.
know.
Like, they haven't had great interactions or a great relationship since they've all kind of met up in this time period. But what the fuck, Samuel? You haven't tried. And he's had this ulterior motive the entire time of trying to get Mary back when her sons were right in front of him and he was like, "I don't give a fuck about them. I'm just going after Mary."
Right. I mean, I guess he's coming from this perspective of like I don't even know you. Like you weren't even born when I died, essentially.
Right.
But now he does, and he knows who they are, and that they're his blood, and it just yeah. I mean, there you go. It just goes back to this idea like a family don't end with blood, and
Mm-hmm.
you just cannot rely on that alone. It's really the support system
Mm-hmm.
that's needed, not just familial relationships. So, um,
Right.
it's crazy that he would think that.
Yeah. So I guess we know what side Samuel's on. And it's his side, whatever that is.
Mhm.
Um, so Dean tells him, "I'm the guy you never want to see again because the next time you see me, I'm going to kill you," which is really intense.
Mhm.
And then
Which
Samuel
is
just leaves.
yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt. It's just it was really intense. It was very surprising to hear Dean say that,
Yes.
and it directly mirrors what Sam tells Cass. So it's just interesting to see both of them take very harsh stances in the one episode, but I don't know, maybe Dean a little bit more surprisingly just because he's telling his grandpa that, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. He's really drawing a line there.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems after Samuel leaves, like we see Dean for a second and he seems kind of shaken. Like he didn't really, I don't know, he didn't want to have to do that.
Yeah, and like he believes Dean, you know?
Yeah, right. So then some demons open up Dean's cell door and take him out of the cell and walk him past Samuel, who won't look at him. He's just staring at the floor. And Sam hears them leave and starts looking around his cell. He's obviously looking for a way out. We cut back over quickly to Meg, naked and strapped to a table for torture by Christian, which is really shitty. And then it cuts back over really quickly again to Sam, and he crouches down in his cell and starts biting at his own wrist. I didn't know what the hell was happening here. I was like, he's not a demon anymore. What does he do now?
I What is happening? It was so strange. And we find out later on that the only reason he was doing this was in order to put up the devil's trap, which is like
Right.
fine. Like we've seen Dean cut himself on his hand, and Sam also,
Mm-hmm.
and create these sigils and these different symbols, but they made it seem as if like, okay, like they really did a redirect here where it's like, oh, he's gonna drink his own blood in order
Yes.
to like get powers again or something like that.
Because that's
What?
what it looked like. It totally looked like that.
Yeah, it was so weird. It was so strange. It didn't work for me, although I think I like clapped when Sam like laughs at them afterwards
Yeah.
and he has like blood in his teeth. It was crazy.
Yeah, he's really nuts.
Mm, mhm.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. I liked it too. It was just like, come on, don't try to trick us.
Yeah, it was really strange. I definitely had flashbacks to all of the demon blood business and was like, what is happening right now? Um so the demons that took Dean take him into a room and drop him off, and he starts looking around, and there are body parts and intestines and blood and nasty shit just everywhere. It's just a horrific scene. And then they let in two men who we find out are ghouls, and they tell them to enjoy. Would you like to tell us some more about ghouls?
Well, okay, so I don't have anything about ghouls, but what was really interesting in the official companion for this episode was it talks about the fact that there almost was a crazier monster scene than these ghouls. So the ghouls were originally going to be a big ass Lovecraftian tentacle, reports story editor Brett Matthews. Okay, so in the first draft, Dean gets thrown into this underground pit where there's just sand and a huge trough of water. He starts digging and finds a bone and realizes he's been thrown into a monster pen. Then this huge tentacle reaches up and grabs him and sucks him under. Sam busts out with a fire axe and chops the tentacle off and pulls him out, but Dean's legs all messed up. It was going to be this very bold step into the realm of monster, but it was just too expensive.
Wow.
Crazy?
So they wanted to do that. The only reason they didn't was because of the budget.
Yes.
That is so
And it would have,
interesting.
I know, and it would have just been such a choice. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
first off, it's very Star Warsy. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Like the pit and
it's
everything.
yeah, it's just like almost a direct ripoff. It's also very Buffy, you know? There's definitely lots of tentacles in Buffy and that sort of thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there are.
Uh and it's interesting that like Buffy is able to create that sort of thing and have the budget for that, but Supernatural isn't. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I guess you could say with Buffy, like, even though they did it, it didn't necessarily look awesome.
I mean, but I guess what's interesting about it is like in Buffy, they do use a lot of like puppetry and
Right.
um, special effects that do, I think, cost more money than CGI. I don't know. Maybe at this time it's the opposite, but yeah, it would have been really interesting to see like tentacles, and perhaps they would have gone with CGI instead, because that seems to be what they've been doing with like bigger
Yeah.
bigger things
And I
like
could
that
see that
cloud.
being really expensive then. Like if they wanted to do that whole scene and would have used a lot of CGI, that probably would have been way too
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we didn't get it, but it was
Wow.
supposed to be totally different. I know.
That's so cool. I just kind of like thinking about that at this point that we would have had this like really crazy huge, very monstery monster like in the,
Totally.
monster under your bed kind of
And it's
way.
interesting to think about too, because it would have really, I think, changed the show. Like, you know, in Supernatural, we've had demons and angels and all of these crazy, jinns and vampires, but they all look humanoid.
Right.
Um, we haven't really had too many instances of like creatures that don't look human. That's not really a thing that we have, right?
No, it's not.
Too often, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of even when that has happened, and I'm not coming up with anything so far.
I could think of like maybe like the Wendigo and maybe there's been a few like that. But otherwise, yeah, it's not too often. And I just feel like this would have really put the show in a different format and not a different genre necessarily, but just a different way of expressing that genre.
Mhm.
Um, because yeah, once we do get into season 13, and one of the last episodes I did see before I did stop watching so we can watch it together, there's one episode in particular where it's like they do something like that where it's like, whoa, this is not supernatural. Like they've
Hmm.
never done anything like this before. And it's like, okay, this is strange. It feels out of place. And so I wonder if that scene would have felt out of place,
Yeah,
you know?
right. I bet it would have been at least startling, because we can easily tell at this point that most of the monsters we've come into contact with are humanoid, and so it would have definitely been, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Like a deviation, from the norm.
Mhm. Yeah, totally.
That's so interesting. Well, instead we get these two nasty ghouls. They're just dudes who eat people. Um, and then when the demons drop off the ghouls, with Dean and shit starts going down, they leave and go back for Sam. And they walk into Sam's cell and they start going over to him, but then they stop abruptly. And they try to walk forward and they can't. And then they look up and see that Sam drew a devil's trap in his blood on the ceiling. And then we look down at Sam and he smiles at them with a big bloody grin.
It's so
It
insane.
is, he looks so insane. It's very like Silence of the Lambs.
Mhm.
Um, and so Dean is like fighting for his life, fighting these ghouls and barely holding them off. And it's really nasty because he keeps falling on like intestines and shit. And Sam leaves his cell and goes running through the building trying to find Dean. And in the distance, he hears, "You son of a bitch!"
Dean!
And Sam busts in as Dean is almost eaten. And Sam grabs a pipe off the wall, just like rips it off of the wall like a fucking giant, and hits these ghouls over the head and kills them and saves Dean. So then we switch back over to Meg, and she's still being tortured by Christian, and she tells him that he's sticking the demon blade in all the wrong places.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is pretty rough. She says, she basically tells him to have fun. This is the host body of a girl from Sheboygan who moved to LA to be an actress. And this is probably not even the worst thing that's happened to her.
Yeah, it's super
Yikes.
dark.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So then he just goes back to torturing her, and then she suddenly starts laughing, and he stops and looks up and asks why she's laughing. And then the demon blade goes, well, I'm sorry. Dean is right behind him. He grabs really quickly the demon blade out of Christian's hand and stabs him in the back with it. And she says, because Dean Winchester is right behind you. And then he kills Christian. Yay!
Yeah, bye, Christian.
Fuck off. And then Dean thinks about it for a second and frees Meg and lets her go. I thought that was pretty interesting though, because Meg was like really excited that Dean was there.
She was, yeah. I don't know, maybe she just felt like we're on the same team right now.
Right.
Hugs and puppies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if I was surprised or because Dean's been kind of, making harder decisions, but maybe it was a little bit surprising that he untied her.
Yeah. Because he's been really hating on demons again, just resentful of the situation he's been in with Crowley.
Right. Yeah.
So then we see Crowley walking into the cell of the Jinn woman, and he starts talking to her and is trying to get information about where to find her father. He's obviously still looking for the Alpha Jinn. But then an alarm goes off in the building and he leaves her and closes her cell. And he walks through the building and sees that Christian is dead where he was torturing Meg. And he looks over as the alarm turns off and Dean is standing there. And then Sam comes out of nowhere and hits Crowley over the head with a wrench. He hits him really hard and he falls into another devil's trap. Haha. And then Meg walks in and she starts torturing Crowley by doing something to his insides. She clenches her hand into a fist and Crowley just starts spitting up this dark, it's not even really blood. It's just this dark stuff.
Yeah.
And he looks pretty miserable. And she's like, Sam wants a word with you. And he gets up and he's like, what can I do for you, Sam? Just very polite. And Sam says that he wants his soul back. And Crowley says no. So Meg tortures him some more. And then he says that he can't. And Sam's like, can't or won't? And he's like, I can't. I was lucky to get this much of you out. And he's like, there's no way I'm going back in for the sloppy bits with Lucifer and Michael in there.
Oh my God.
And he asks Sam why he even wants it back, as he says it's Lucifer's only entertainment. Ugh. And he says, I'd swallow a rag off a bathhouse floor before taking that soul back. And he says, unless he wants to be a drooling mess. And we look over at Sam, and Meg is in front of him, and she's like, Sam, I hate to say it, but he's right. And he's like, okay, yeah, thanks, I get it. So then suddenly, Sam is all for Meg just killing Crowley because he says he's useless. He can't help them, and he's done. So Dean gives her the demon blade, and this is a little bit dumb. She walks into the devil's trap to kill him, But then Crowley sweeps the leg and knocks her to the ground, takes the demon blade, throws it into the ceiling, and cracks the devil's trap and sets himself
Yep.
free. And then he is free to use his demon powers to throw Sam and Dean against the wall. And suddenly Cass shows up. And Crowley says, Castiel, haven't seen you all season.
Very clever. Love that.
I know, I loved it too. And so Crowley starts kind of baiting Cass, and he says that he hears that Cass is losing the fight upstairs. And this seems to really kind of piss him off. And so Cass pulls out this bag, and Crowley's like, what do you have in the bag? And Cass shows him a skull, and he says, you. And apparently Crowley didn't hide his bones as well as he thought he had, which is really interesting. I want to know where he hid them. How did Cass know? That's so sneaky.
I know. How did he find it?
I don't know.
Cass can be really resourceful when he wants to be.
Yeah. And so Cass asks Crowley if he can restore Sam's soul or not. And there's a long pause, and Crowley says no. And then he just sets his bones on fire, and Crowley starts screaming and going up in flames, and it burns him down to a skeleton, and it just falls over on the ground. So that's fucking bonkers.
Yeah. Crowley, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a little shithead, but I love him.
Yeah, me too. But I don't really know how final the bone thing is. I couldn't help but feel like we were going to see him again. I just felt like he was too, I don't know. Like we saw him so much and got to know him so well. And he adds a lot to any plot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a big player.
Uh-huh. I just kind of felt like, okay, well, I guess he's gone for now. And that seems like it could be really final, but I don't know. I'm not convinced.
Right.
So let's see here. Then Meg just disappears. Sam and Dean look up and she's gone. And Dean's like, well, she's smart because I was going to kill her too. And then he tells Cass, but I would have given you an hour with her first. And Cass goes, why would I want that?
Oh, Cass.
Oh, honey.
Man.
Yeah. So then we go outside the compound, and Cass tells them that Crowley was right about the war. He says that most of the time he wishes he was here on Earth, which I thought was really kind of sad and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then he turns to Sam and tells him that he does want to help. And Sam's like, okay, well, you want to help? We have a prison full of monsters and we can't, just leave them and we can't let them go. And then Cass vanishes. So I don't know what he does there. Does he kill them all? Does he remove them? I don't know what happens here.
I'm assuming that he's just going to go kill them all.
Yeah.
But I hope he doesn't kill the little babies.
Yeah, maybe
but
he did. Shit.
yeah, I don't know. It's really fucked up.
Yeah, I forgot about the babies.
But I mean, it's also just interesting because this is the 10th episode of the season, and Crowley is dead. According to this episode,
Mm-hmm.
and Cass is killing these creatures locked up in this prison. So, by proxy, he's like metaphorically killing this plot line, right? Like, what's going to happen from here?
Totally. The entire catalyst for this was Crowley's motive for purgatory and rounding up all of these creatures, and they're all gone now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So it's very we're at a interesting, I think, junction, intersection, whatever I want to say.
Yeah.
A fork in the road in the
A
season.
crossroads.
And yes, a crossroads. That's even more fitting. And so I don't know. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here. But I have a lot of questions because like we had an alpha vampire at one point, and like we know if the alpha dies, um potentially all of the vampires die. So I don't know. There's a lot of stakes there. Um that they've kind of dug themselves into, the writers,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is really interesting. I have, like, because of that, we just don't have any idea where this is going to go next.
Mhm.
Um, and especially because of what happens at the very end too. So then Cass is gone, and Dean tells Sam, we can figure something else out to get your soul back. And Sam's like, I heard what everyone said. Putting it back would smash me to bits. And then Dean's arguing with him, like, no, it could be fine. And Sam's like, Dean, when angels and demons are both agreeing on something, I listen,
Yep.
which is a really good point.
Yeah, it
Gotta say.
is.
Hmm. And Sam says, enough is enough. He doesn't think that he even wants it back. And Dean's like, don't talk like that. And he's like, no, really, maybe I'm better off without it. And then he just starts walking away. And Dean's like, don't walk away. But we can get it back. And he's just done. Sam walks off and leaves Dean by the car. And the scene cuts.
Yep.
So now we have no Crowley, no compound with all of these creatures and maybe some alphas. And Sam is off somewhere.
Yeah, and potentially not gonna get his soul back because he doesn't want it back.
Right.
For
And we
good
know now.
reason, I think.
Yeah, exactly. We know now that there's a huge risk in him even having it back.
Hmm. Although it's interesting because like a little part of me is like, okay, is he actually, is this actually his reason, or is he just kind of using this as an excuse because he was already thinking about not getting it back?
Right.
Because he is a superior hunter and all of that stuff. So I don't know. There's no evidence to think that, but it just made me think
No,
that a
yeah.
little bit.
I mean, we have to wonder because I think before this episode, we have seen that he wasn't sold on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, what a crazy episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
there was that episode of just a few episodes ago where just everything under the sun happened, and this was just another one like that.
Yeah. Where just so much shit happens.
Right. And it's the beginning of the season, guys. You don't need to rush it.
No, we're just gonna, make all this shit happen at once.
Yeah, for real.
Um, yeah, and I thought it was good overall. I did like it. There were very few, major issues. I had some minor issues, but nothing that was like,
Hmm.
you know, just totally egregious.
Yeah. I think even though it was rushed and had similar problems to the other, I think I liked this one better. And it could be because of all of the different elements, like we had Cass, we had Meg, we had Crowley.
Mhm.
It was fun. Um, it just was a lot.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um I don't know if you have any thoughts on rankings so far. I don't know.
I
And it
don't
was
have a
another
part.
one where like a lot happened and I liked it, but I didn't like love it.
I feel ya. Last episode, season 6, episode 8, Clap Your Hands If You Believe. It's right now at number 72. That's kind of in an area underneath, like, I feel right underneath where, like, we have episodes where we do really like them. I mean, not like really, really, but like we do like them. So I feel like underneath that, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. I was also kind of looking a little above that. Or maybe not just a little, but like A Very Supernatural Christmas is 52. Jump the Shark is 56. And then we get into some that I didn't love.
See, I would not put this episode like above like Swap Meet.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so season 6 episode 10, Caged Heat is going in as the new number 62, and this one's going in the trunk.
Yeah, really interesting episode. I'm going to be really curious also once we get to the end of the season and you know, we do our usual like wrap up episode just to look at season 6 as a whole because one, I want to know like what Entertainment Weekly's ranking of the season 6 episodes are.
Mm.
But two, I really am. This season has just been so weird for me. I don't know
Yeah.
about for you, but it's just, I feel like so much has happened already, and we're barely on episode 10. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
No, it has been a lot, and I was kind of thinking about this in this episode because yeah, we're only 10 episodes in, and I remembered you talking about how obviously the show takes a turn after season 5 because Eric Kripke is not the showrunner anymore and it feels very different. Um and they're doing a lot of different stuff with it. So I can still see how someone who has watched the previous 5 seasons and is getting into this season is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, I think they've still kept a lot of like the spirit of what it was before. And I don't know. I'm just interested to see where it goes because they are packing a lot in. This could have been this Crowley plot line, this arc could have spanned the entire season if they wanted it to.
It could have. It really could have. It's so strange. I don't have any information on this, but I wonder if it started up and people didn't react to it very well as we've known that to happen,
Mhm.
or the writers just didn't feel it after it was being written.
Yeah.
And they just decided to
Literally kill it
abandon
all
it.
off.
Yeah, exactly. Just kill it all off. Yeah, because maybe we'll return to it later on. I can't recall. But right now I'm kind of feeling like not really.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like maybe we'll go in a different direction. So, um, yeah, that it's been an interesting ride, and I think it's gonna get even more interesting because it's just gonna go in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. What are they gonna do now?
We've seen this happen though. I think season 2 was similar, where they were really trying to find and figure out what they were gonna do
Mhm.
with the season. So it's yeah, just like you said, like season 2 was them, I think, really trying to find their direction, being like a new show. Because season 1, I feel like, okay, they knew exactly what they wanted to do, and season 2 was really them kind of reaching out and doing something different from season 1. But this is like okay, they're brand new babies all over again.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find their way,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so the next episode is episode 11 in the season, Appointment in Samara. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see how that goes. And y'all know where to find us. But the jumping off point is going to be www.highwaytohellpodcast.com. Highway is always spelled HWY. We are also on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We do have the audio on our blog. And if you could leave us any reviews, that always helps us a lot. We're on all the social media platforms. Except for TikTok, which I recently downloaded and I don't recommend because now I don't have a life. And if you want to follow us on there, it's just Highway to Hell Podcast. That would be Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And until next time, we'll see you on the Highway to Hell. Bye.